if you watched some of the coverage of it already, you know, RFK dropped out of the race and endorsed Donald Trump. And if you watched the Democratic National Convention this week, you understand why. So I think that we're going to get started with this talk about RFK Jr. and what he just did, which was give a gigantic middle finger to the Democratic Party. And when you look at this in context, why wouldn't he do that? Look at what the Democratic Party did to him. He's a Kennedy. He tried to run as a Democrat and was instantly smeared as if he's some kind of insane anti-vax, you know, right-wing Trumper, just for telling the truth about things. And I covered in great detail about a year ago when Debbie Wasserman Schultz and all the Democratic, you know, robots were calling him an anti-Semite and, you know, whatever else they could think of. And the most recent attacks, of course, they trot out his family, which I think is funny, to talk shit about him. And I'm sure all the people that came out, you know, the Kennedys that came out and said, RFK does not represent our family and our father and uncle would be, you know, rolling in their grave. Those people are all, I guarantee, offered positions in a Harris administration to do that kind of stuff. But I think what's happened with the Kennedy thing, it makes me feel good because I thought I kind of thought Trump was going to win regardless. You know, whether I want to vote for him or not, I'll most likely vote for Jill Stein, if I even vote. But the idea is Trump is most likely going to win. And based on this video that I'm about to show you, I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. So let's get started here. This is a speech that RFK Jr. gave at a rally Trump did in Arizona. Now, it's covered by Dallas Fort Worth News. So I originally thought that it was in Dallas, but I was incorrect about that. So I need to fix my tweet. But this is about a 10, 12-minute clip. Let's listen to it. Stop and tell me.
Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome a man who has been an incredible champion for so many of these values that we all share, and we've shared them for a long time. I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long, for the past 16 months.
I love Trump's sense of humor. I'm not going to lie. I love his sarcasm right there. He's the low-key person. You probably never heard of him.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, let's mute that a little bit. I think that'll get me a copyright strike right there. So they're playing Foo Fighters, There Goes My Hero, which I wonder if Dave Grohl approved that. I hope that he did. He's probably friends with RFK since he's like a Hollywood guy. And Dave Grohl seems like a very cool guy. Let's not get it twisted. I'm not calling him a right winger or anything. But look at this. I think the most amazing thing about it is the Trump crowd cheering him like they are.
Man, whoa. And he deserves it. He deserves it.
Now, I just want to say, too, there's a lot of people in the leftist spaces that hate RFK Jr. And, you know, more power to them. Of the candidates in the presidential race, he's one of the more honest ones. Obviously, his position on Israel is garbage, but whose position is good other than Jill Stein's? Or maybe Claudia de la Cruz, you know, as far as viable options go, you know, RFK definitely has the wisdom and at least the kind of ability to speak freely, which none of the other candidates have. And I think that, the people like, I know Russ and Keaton on Do Dissidents, they're always like, RFK. He's a lawyer. He's an environmental lawyer. And the way that I look at these politicians is look at their past, look at the things that they've done in the past. RFK Jr. spent years and years fighting corporate power in court. And whether you like him or not, or you don't like his shaky voice, or you follow whoever your favorite, YouTube influencer is, and your opinions are based completely on that, and you don't formulate your own. Good for you. I like RFK Jr. I probably would have voted for him. The biggest real problem he has is the Israel thing, which all of the candidates have. So. Now, keep in mind, too, this is a room full of right-wing, or a stadium full of right-wing Trump supporters cheering RFK Jr., a guy who attempted to run as a Democrat in the Democratic primary.
For the past 16 months, Bobby has run an extraordinary campaign for President of the United States. I know, because he also went after me a couple of times. I didn't like it. And I mean this sincerely. Had he been elected,
it's say what you want. This type of stuff about Trump is endearing. He's funny and he's honest. He's like, he attacked me. Oh, he was attacking me, and I didn't like it.
Out to enter the Democrat primary, he would have easily beaten Joe Biden, but they wouldn't let him in.
Can you argue with that?
They put up rules. I've never seen rules like you had to have 65% of the vote in order to run, little things like that. His candidacy has inspired millions and millions of Americans, raised critical issues that have been too long ignored in this country, and brought together people from across the political spectrum in a positive campaign grounded in the American values of his father, Robert Kennedy, a great man, and his uncle, President John F. Kennedy.
I think it was funny. I think it was Theo Vaughn and Tim Dillon were talking about RFK, and they're like, why is he so skeptical of the government? The government killed his dad and his uncle. I mean, why is he so skeptical? What's this guy's problem? Why doesn't he trust the government?
And I know that they are looking down right now, and they are very, very proud of Bobby. I'm proud of Bobby. You want to know the truth? And I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got applause like he just got. I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that.
Now, this is a little bit long of an intro, but I want you to focus on the substance of some of the stuff that RFK says once he finally starts talking.
Amazing. It's true. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes.
Okay, just the way he said that was so funny. I'm sorry, I got to hear that one more time.
Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes.
Oh my God.
I'm
sorry, just the way he said that even made me snort. It was so funny.
The risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you.
Now, I'm going to show you later on, Bernie people, clip of Trump talking about Bernie with Theo Vaughn, but he says essentially the same thing as he's saying here about RFK, which is the absolute fucking truth. And there are a lot of people out there still stuck in the red, blue, right, left bullshit that a candidate like Trump winning an election and having someone like RFK in his ear is the best thing that could possibly happen for the country right now. And disagree with me if you want, send me nasty comments. I'll respond if they're worthy.
We are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration.
Yeah, we saw how good that protection works, didn't we?
And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy.
So Trump's basically trying to get shot again.
And they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that. And I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides.
Listen to this. Was there any talk of this at the DNC? Not anything notable, but he sounds like a leftist.
It's in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including...
I don't know that we need to investigate, but I think we know.
Autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this. I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
I just sped it up a little bit. Let's get on with this.
Thank you. Thank you, President Trump.
The stadium is chanting his name. That is amazing. Up until this point, I was pretty sure it was over and the Democrats are going to get it to a close margin and then just steal it. But with RFK Jr. on the trail, it might still be a pretty big win for Trump. We'll see.
Thank you. A few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA.
So I've talked about Kelly Means before. He's been on Tucker Carlson. He's been on a bunch of different shows. But we got some of this coming up. And this was what blew me away is, like I said, I started putting this show together before this happened Friday. And one of the centerpieces of the show was Callie Means and his sister. So to see this manifest, you know, as I'm putting the show together around that centerpiece, and to hear these candidates talking about people who I've been paying very close attention to, who I think are kind of hitting the nail on the head as far as what's wrong with our health system, it's kind of uncanny for me. You know, maybe it's a mystical sign or whatever you want to call it. But listen.
FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies that they're supposed to regulate. And he said to me that he'd been advising me for many years and on my campaign. And he told me that night that he was also advising President Trump. And he asked if I would talk to President Trump. And I said, of course.
So right off the bat, Callie Means is advising Trump. That's amazing.
And about a few minutes later, I got a call from the president. And we talked. We had a very good talk. And then he invited me to come see him the next day. And I went to Minneapolis and saw him. We met again a couple of weeks later in Florida. And we talked not about the things that separate us, because we don't agree on everything, but on the values and the issues that bind us together. And one of the issues that he talked about was having safe food. And
imagine that, lefties. Imagine forming a coalition with people who you might not agree on every single issue with. Just imagine that. Isn't that crazy? Crazy idea, isn't it, left? You're against trans rights, so I can't unite with you for healthcare for the public. Like, that kind of shit is just stupid. You know, we can have a separate debate about trans rights because it is important. But the idea that you would not work with someone who disagrees with you on that issue to get another issue that you care about put into place, you know, or you know, legislatively, is just stupid. And the reason people like this win elections, the reason I think Trump won in 2016 is because he did stuff like this. He reached out to people and formed these types of coalitions.
ending the chronic disease epidemic. Our children are now the unhealthiest, sickest children in the world. Don't you want healthy children? And don't you want the chemicals out of our food? And don't you want the regulatory agencies to be free from corporate corruption? And that's what President Trump told me that he wanted. He also told me that he wanted to end the grip of the neocons on U.S. foreign policy. He said he didn't want any.
Listen to the crowd cheering for these far left ideas. These are far left ideas. Ending wars, fixing the broken healthcare system, going at the USDA and the FDA, who are completely corrupted by corporate money. These are lefty ideas. And a right-wing crowd full of Trumpers in Arizona is full-throated cheering them. How can you not be happy about that? The people that were attacking Jimmy Dore the other day, I'm like, you guys are morons.
More $200 billion wars in Ukraine that we could use that money back here in the United States.
By the way, I'm going to start calling Ukraine Democrat Afghanistan, just so you know, because it's exactly what it is. It's a free-for-all, forever war that they could make money off of, just like Dick Cheney did with Afghanistan. Democratic Afghanistan. Keep that in mind.
And the safest.
Maybe we take the ick off the end. Maybe it's Democrat Afghanistan. I don't know.
The best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country.
Who does that sound like?
Don't you want a president who's going to
That sounds like Bernie Sanders.
Get us out of the wars and who's going to rebuild the middle class in this country?
See, I think it's interesting because at the DNC, they talk a lot. They give a lot of lip service to working people in the middle class, but they also give more lip service to keeping those wars going. And where do you get the money to rebuild the middle class if you're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine
He told
and
me
Israel?
He wanted to end the censorship because the whole basis of American democracy is the free flow of information. And we know that a government that can silence its opponents has license for any kind of atrocity. And can you think of any time that you can look back in history and say that the people who were censoring were the good guys. They're always the bad guys, because it's always the first step down that slippery slope to totalitarianism. And don't you want a president who's going to protect America's freedoms? And who is going to protect us against totalitarianism? And
I gotta say, Bobby Kennedy's speaking voice is much more tolerable at 1.5 speed.
I want to ask you again, don't you want a safe environment for your children? Don't you want to know that the food that you're feeding them is not filled with chemicals that are going to give them cancer and chronic disease?
Listen to these right-wing fascists supporting food that doesn't poison us. What crazy Trumpers they are.
And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
Maha. Maha. Make America healthy again. Maybe it's the new slogan. Maybe that's RFK's campaign slogan from here on out. So that is the complete party switch, basically. I guess what's the word? Solidified completely right there. I mean, you listen to RFK, he sounds like Bernie Sanders progressivism. And he has sounded like that the whole time. But now he's bringing left progressivism to the Trump campaign. Maybe he's going to be that voice out on the campaign trail that speaks to that, while Trump still tries to pander to the people that are giving him money and the people that he needs to win. Who knows? But I will say there's nothing that exciting even being said on the left. They're doubling down on identity politics crap. They're completely brainwashed nut jobs, as we'll get into later. And, you know, be mad if you want, but this is exciting to me. This is a potential for actual change. And a second term Trump is unbound by any kind of like re-election efforts. And again, the fact that he's just bringing in RFK is so great.